What's going on, people? What's really good? It's your boy Marv, and this is the Nerds in the Hood. Folks, just came back from the movies. Just saw me a nice little movie. Hope y'all doing all right out there in the nerd hooddom. But anyway, just saw me a nice little movie, courtesy of my AMC Movie Pass. That stubs, y'all. So you already know this is another Movie Pass movement in full effect. I am reviewing Snow White. I wanted to see it. There's a reason why. Because Disney has been doing a live action adaptation thing for a little while now. And it's been a lot more misses than hits, in my opinion. Now, they've always done some type of live action adaptation of a movie since like Dawn of Time kind of vibes. Since I can remember as a kid. I know Jungle Book, I think, probably got, 2 live action adaptations? And now we're doing Lion King. Lion King got a prequel. Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast. It's just so many, and there's more to come. And I have my own kind of, how they say, Mount Rushmore of live action adaptations that I feel like are the best of the best. But let's talk about Snow White first, and then I'll get to that in a minute. Now, this adaptation was years in the making. It was first announced in 2016, and they just went through different decisions and problems, like getting the right director, getting the right writers, getting the actors. The SAG strike came through, all types of stuff happened, and now we're finally here in 2025, almost 10 years later, and this film is being released, I think it's a month or so after the 87th anniversary of the release of the original animated film. So that's a pretty major thing. And this film right now is on pace to probably make back its budget of $250 million, which is also cool. I know it's probably one of the top movies in America right now, if not the world. But what I felt about this movie was mainly the fact that it was more of a musical than even a cartoon probably let on. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Sometimes musical movies can be like, oh, it's going to be another song. Oh, and I was feeling that way for a little while. But it might not be a bad thing if the music is cool. You know what I'm saying? It did give me Broadway play vibes, so I'm okay with that. Now, for those of you who are wondering, hey, Marv, did they kind of stay faithful to the source material? Did they stay faithful to the cartoon version? No, I'm not going to say they did. They did as best as they could, but they did steer off it and make it a more modern version. I mean, let's face it. The name of the movie is called Snow White, and not its original title, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Years ago, Peter Dinklage, one of the actors, not one of the actors of the movie, but an actor, spoke on behalf of, dwarfism and the dwarf community and stuff of that nature, just to make sure that they were staying politically correct with the film, from what I know. Don't quote me on anything. It's from what I know and what I read. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. All good. But because of that, they changed it. I don't even think they mentioned the word dwarf in the movie, if I'm right. I think they just kind of focused on the fact that these were just 7 dudes that lived together and worked together, and that was it. They just be in the mines, getting diamonds. At some point, I think it kind of made it seem like they had powers, or maybe that was just part of the song. Like their hands glue red, and when they touched the ground, the mine started to light up. So I'm not sure if that was a power they had, which made me feel like, yo, when did they give these dudes powers or not? Dopey talking at the end of the movie, I don't remember if that was in the original movie. Oh, I always forget to say, spoilers ahead, people. I'll put a disclaimer probably at the beginning if you didn't see it. Spoilers ahead. Dopey throughout the movie, from what I remember in the original cartoon, he wasn't a talker. He wasn't really a talker. So I don't remember if he talked in the cartoon. If he did, let me know. But in this movie, they found a reason for him to talk. He was the narrator, which was kind of weird, but whatever. They also alluded to the fact that Snow White, which I know was different than even the books and stuff like that. Snow White was born in a snowstorm. And I know they've told different versions of that story, and some stories kind of stick to the similar script. But from the reason I know is that her parents were royalty. They were a king and a queen, and she was born during a snowstorm, which is why they decided to call her Snow White, because that's what they saw when she was born. And then she was the princess, and they lived happy, and life was good. Then her mom died. And then after her mom died, the queen pulled up and was like, what's good? I need a sugar daddy. And then the king was like, I bet, what's up? She showed off her magic real quick and then took over the throne, tricked the dad into going off into some war that he never came back from because he passed. And then here we are. Snow White was a servant of the queen, the evil queen, because of the fact that she knew that if she at any point let her take over the throne, the queen would be done. Which was like, okay, I guess. So part of my problem with the movie was, in the beginning, they were doing singing and dancing, and it was kind of cool. Rachel Zegler, to me, did a pretty cool job as Snow White. It was all right. Gal Gadot did an okay job as the queen, too. I'm not going to take nothing away from what the two of them did. However, where the movie fell for me, here at Nerds in the Hood, was that sometimes you got to fill time because this is not really a full-on musical. It's musical elements. So there's going to be times where it's like just straight yawn action, straight boring. And that's what happened. And then, she had her Prince Charming in this case, and he was the one that was going to save him, and his name was Jack. And they just they did this whole thing where Jack was like a leader of a rebellion group. And that rebellion group was trying to overthrow the evil queen. And then at some point they meet up with Snow White and they meet up with the dwarves. It just gets boring after that. It's like they try to hook her up. They're like, oh yeah, these two like each other. Oh snap. But I see what they was trying to do. They was trying to connect the dots to get you there a little faster in a different way. And that's where I'm not saying that we should give these adaptations a pass. But that is where I'm saying that with adaptations, you got to remember they're not going to be faithful to the source material. They're going to be loosely based on the source material. So what that means is they could choose to go the route that the cartoon movie did. And then at some point, while they're going the same way as the cartoon movie, they just decide to make a left. They just decide to make a left and keep it moving. And that's basically what happened here. They took a left and just went different routes. You know what I'm saying? Like Snow White, they did keep noticing the fact that she had the power to communicate with the animals and the animals understood her. And that was in the movie too. So that was in the cartoon. So it's like, I can't even sit here and try to compare the cartoon movie to the live action film. But what I can do is acknowledge the fact that this film, okay, I'll say this. There was a scene towards the end where we all know it. If you remember the cartoon movie, you know it very well, which is where, Snow White has passed away because she ate the poisonous apple, and her love interest has to come and kiss her back to life, right? They did it kind of differently in the end. I'm not going to spoil it, but what I am going to say is that they still followed the format as much as they could, and I sat there and I said, okay, I know this part very well. And when it happened, a little kid in front of me started clapping when Snow White came back to life. And that's when I had to stop before I made this video, because I was ready to just call it off and be like, yo, don't go see this movie, yada, yada, yada. But it goes back to what I said when I reviewed the film Back in Action on Netflix, which was, this is a family film. If you don't got a family, it ain't gonna hit you that hard. But if you're a family person, you got kids, you know what I'm saying? This is a family film. Family films are going to be cheesy. They're going to be corny. They're going to do stuff that you just go, oh, come on. But it's allowed because it's a family film. That is the formula of a family film, is that at some point, things is going to get a little haywire. They're going to get a little crazy. And you just got to laugh at it. Or you got to be appreciative of what's going on. And Disney is really good for that. That's why they've been around for so many decades. So to see a little kid get hype about that scene, it made me feel like this movie did what it's supposed to do. That doesn't mean it's amazing and it's a perfect film. That just means that it did its job. Entertain the youth them. You know what I'm saying? So I can say more, but I want to keep it real simple. I want to say Gal Gadot did her job as the queen. Singing and dancing wise, y'all know that's not her forte, but she was ready for it. She was ready for the challenge, and she did okay. The song selections that they did, the songs that they chose to sing, Rachel Zegler did her thing. The guy who played Jack, he did okay. They even got a huntsman, which they got a black huntsman. I'm cool with that. He his change of heart scene was kind of funny because it was just like he felt like I ain't killing this kid. So it was like different things that they did that was like they had to stretch out the time. They didn't want it to be like a 1 hour or a 90-minute film. They wanted it to be like a 2-hour film. That's fine. It's just when you're gonna stretch the time, I don't know. Either make another song or just do something a little more compelling. You know, I know one of the 7 doors was Titus Burgess because I saw that in the credits, but I didn't get to see who he played. I just saw his name and they had it over one of the doors things. Oh, he was Bashful. Okay. All right. So that's interesting. Okay. A lot of the other guys I didn't really know. I'm sure they've been in their fair share of movies and all of that, but I know that was the only other noticeable name outside of Rachel Zegler. Am I saying it right? Am I saying her name right? Yeah, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. So shout out to him for doing that. He was a black dwarf, but he wasn't black. I'm sorry. All the dwarves were CGI. They weren't actually in the film as live action representations. They were all CGI, all 7 of them. They looked almost like the characters in the show Secret Level, almost, which was cool. I was cool with that. So I'm going to say, as we bring down the Nerds in the Hood rating board here, I'm going to say this movie was all right. It was all right. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it also wasn't trash. There were moments where I did get bored, but there were also moments where I sat and was like, all right, cool. And I think those moments were mainly the songs. Even though there was a good amount of songs, I think the songs is what kept the movie up. Because they tried to treat it like just this regular, down with the queen, down with the monarchy, support the rebellion, viva la resistance. They try to go with that type of theme, which is like, all right, fine. But then when you get to the final payoff with it, it was just stupid. It was just stupid because, I mean, granted, I didn't really want them to do any fight scenes anyway, because they did one fight scene and that fight scene was kind of corny too. So I'll just say it to you this way. If for anime fans, you'll understand when I say this. Snow White at some point did talk no jutsu. That's what she did. She did talk no jutsu. She saved the day. Simple as that. But it just, to me, it was just, yeah, we didn't need that whole overthrow the government thing. But on the flip side, it did kind of help because it would have just been a movie similar to a cartoon. And a cartoon was also had its faults. So that's what I said. I'm stuck in between saying it's cool, but also saying it's like has its weak moments. So that's why I say it's alright. If you are a fan of the original Snow White, go see it. Especially because of all the other variations that came out over time weren't really that great, like Snow White and the Huntsman or Mirror Mirror or stuff like that. There were different movies that weren't necessarily parodies, and some of them were, but they weren't that great. So this, to me, is a little bit of a better thing for 2025. With live action adaptations, they're going to keep revisiting these people. You just have to be aware of that. It's just what it is. Just be aware of that. Now, before I end this episode, I just want to say that my Mount Rushmore, in a sense, I'm not really going to necessarily choose 4, but my Mount Rushmore of their Disney live action adaptations is, to me, I know The Jungle Book is probably the best one. Technically, I know this falls more in line with just its own movie, but it is based in the same universe. I'm going to say Cruella is another one. Cruella was fire. I'm going to also say Maleficent was pretty good. Both, the second one was all right, but the first one definitely. And The Little Mermaid. I know people are going to be arguing me. They're like, yo, Little Mermaid was trash. And if you're going to write in the comments and be like, it was trash because she was a black mermaid, I'm going to just delete the comment. Or I'll probably leave it there so people can write that you wildin' for saying that. But other than that, I think those would probably be 4 of my best ones. Now, Lilo and Stitch is on the way, so I'm going to reserve a spot for them because the trailers is looking fire, but trailers can be deceiving. I'm trying to think if there's any other one. I could be wrong, but I know it was dope. To me, it was those 4. And if any other one, I mean, some people liked Cinderella was alright. Some people did like Alice in Wonderland is borderline for me. Some people did like, what's the name of that movie? Beauty and the Beast, I wasn't really feeling it. So maybe I guess that does kind of go to 4. So for me, it's like those 4 were like the best ones to me. If you have better ones, write in the comments. Let's talk about it. I'm open to all suggestions. So as always, follow Nerds in the Hood on all social media using the link tree in the description below. But definitely, if you got a family, check out Snow White. You got nothing to do Sunday afternoon like I did, go check it out. It's not that bad. Is it worth the movie ticket? It can be. But if you don't feel like spending money on it, you can wait for Disney Plus. Anyway, I'm Marvin. Oh, excuse me, about to say full government. I'm Marv Lat, Nerds in the Hood. I'm out of here. Peace.